Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is the President of Costa Rica, Carlos Alvarado. Mr. President, thank you very much for being on the show.
No, thank you for having us here.
Mr. President, Costa Rica is known for being a country without a military. Costa Rica also wants to be an example for the world when it comes to fighting climate change. We've seen President Donald Trump pull out of the Paris Climate Agreement. We are hearing the new president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, also wants to pull out. Is it maybe more important than ever to have a country implement the kind of ambitious agenda you're implementing?
Well, we see this for us as an ethical issue. Why? Because we see in danger not only present generation but the future generation. Costa Rica has a consistent policy, not of now, of a historic policy of sustainability. We managed to reverse deforestation in the past decades to increase forest coverage. And we also have an electric grid, matrix that's 100% renewable and clean. So what we see, it's our responsibility now, our next step is to decarbonize the economy. And that is to say, to use the clean electric grid for transportation and for production to reduce the use of fossil fuels, but still to grow and to share the benefits of development. So during my government, what we want to achieve is to disengage the curves of growth and the curve of use of fossil fuels, to demonstrate it's possible to grow and at the same time to reduce the carbon footprint. And on the midterm, what we plan to do is to decarbonize the economy, and that's to say to eventually not use at all fossil fuels and rely solely on renewable energy. And in the Paris Agreement, we committed to be an international lab for decarbonization. And what we want to do is to lead by example. That's to say, instead of only saying things, it's doing things. We believe it's our responsibility to do so.
Right. To get to the issue of migration, it's been a big issue here in Europe for some years, but also in the US. We've seen the President Donald Trump talk regularly about erecting a wall with Mexico. During the midterm election campaign, he pointed to the so-called caravan of migrants. Since the election, he hasn't spoken about it anymore. Are you concerned that the migrants are being used for political purposes in many parts of the world right now?
Well, I think first one needs to frame this. Humanity and migrations have been, or basically the story of humanity has to do a lot with this history of migrations. In the case of Costa Rica, there were first the Native Americans, then the Spanish came, and then there were Italians and Africans and Chinese, and all that diversity explains what we are today. So also with that, currently we have lots of migrants from, for example, from Nicaragua, and they also contribute to our economy in agriculture and other sectors. We also need to work for formalizing that. In other sense, there are international instruments that we have committed to, and we need to guarantee the migrations have to be ordered, registered, and secure for those who come, and also for the ones that are living currently on our country. Having said that, it's also important to move the debate from where is it now. Not to change exactly the topic, but also to broaden the spectrum of what we're talking about. Because we're only focused on the effects of migration. And then we talk a lot about border control, and we talk about those kinds of issues. But we don't go to the root of the situation. And the root of the situation has a lot to do with the own development of countries, has to do with poverty, inclusion, health, education, and also international cooperation to make better the quality of life of people in different countries.
But is President Trump ready to listen to such arguments? Because he talks only about border control, repression, and not about the root causes. He actually wants to cut foreign aid.
Well, in our case, particularly, we have excellent cooperation with the United States and other partners, for example, in terms of security. And we have had great results fighting against narcotics and traffic, for example, traffic of narcotics. But also, that means we can cooperate in terms of making better the conditions of different countries, and that's through cooperation. And so I think we have to reframe that conversation, and we have to start working regionally to improve the conditions of certain countries and ours as well, so we can alleviate poverty, we can generate more jobs, we can improve productivity in agriculture, and that will be reframing the whole discussion about migrations. I think we need to do that effort, and multilateralism is a way to strengthen those debates and to improve the quality of our neighbors. And by improving the quality of life of our neighbors as well, us included, our own quality of life will improve. I think that's where to take the debate, and that can only happen in multilateral forums.
Right, but there are some crises. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk in South America about the crisis in Venezuela. In Central America, one of your neighbors, Nicaragua, is in the midst of a political crisis for the past 6 months. It has also created more migration to Costa Rica. Are we slowly but surely reaching the point of a migration crisis from Nicaragua into Costa Rica?
It's true that we have received more migrants, and many of them requesting refugee.
20,000 or so, I believe.
27,000. But it's also true that many of them were already in Costa Rica, but they filed for the refugee just to gain that status. So the flow wasn't that as large as the number says. But important is, for this, we need cooperation and support from other regional partners.
Are you getting it?
We are receiving offers for cooperation and help, and we need that kind of help. But mostly in the terms of Nicaragua, we as a region need political support and political involvement. And this I don't mean by intervention, but I mean dialogue. We need political support to strengthen the dialogue within Nicaragua, to have democratic solutions as well.
But the dialogue broke down in Nicaragua. It was mediated by the church. Are you concerned that the country is going to continue to go deeper and deeper into a crisis?
We are concerned, and we are keeping a close follow-up on the situation. We are also
too close, according to the Nicaraguan authorities, who've criticized you for
meddling. We have been vocal about it in the multilateral forums. We have expressed our concerns very respectfully, but concerns. But the thing here is, we cannot give up on dialogue. We have to go further, and that's why we need to talk with other partners, international partners, and here the European Union and the European community has a role to play, because we have to stand together when it comes to principles like democracy, like human rights. We have to stand for those principles, especially in these times.
Do you think President Daniel Ortega is maybe doing a bit what Nicolas Maduro is doing in Venezuela, clinging to power? Do you fear that he will try to stay whatever the cost for his people?
At the end of the day, that's not for me to say or to qualify.
But you're observing it.
We were observing it, and we are saying that perhaps, or mainly, that the best way to go is dialogue, democracy, and defending human rights. Costa Rica and Nicaragua have a very close relation, especially between their peoples. There are lots of binational families. The synergies between the economies are very strong. So that's why we have a sincere interest of what's going to be the future of the political situation. And we do believe, because we live by those standards, that it has to be democracy, rule of law, and human rights. These standards, also if we want to be a developed region, those are the pathway that we believe the region should follow to be in a better position.
Just last question briefly. Costa Rica wants to become a member of the OECD, which is often known as a club of rich countries, a very ambitious goal, especially you want to achieve this by 2020. Is this realistic, or is this a pipe dream?
No, it is realistic. We are already half the way there. And I like to see it not as the club of the rich countries, but the real value of it is the best practices and how innovation and knowledge data-driven policy can change not the life of a government, but the life of people.
But it means austerity also.
Sorry?
It means austerity as well.
It means many things, but actually, in the past decades, what has been proven is that development in Latin America has been propelled mostly by increase of expenditure, which is not bad by itself. But we're reaching a point where we need to be careful and mindful about our expenditure, and we are not renouncing to development. So what we need to do, we need to innovate, we need to be more efficient, we need to be result-driven. And results not on elections, not on how popular is a ruler or not, or a president or parliament or whatever. What should be the measure of success? It's the well-being of the people, their support of democratic institutions, and increase, not only for a group, but for the whole population, the increase of opportunities, of health, of education, and of well-being, which at the end is how we can reach more transcendental goals such as autonomy, freedom, happiness.
Okay. On those wise words, thank you very much, President Carlos Alvarado, for your time, and thank you for watching this edition of The Interview on France 24.